Hello, and welcome to Casey's Corner 3. I am Casey Coggins, driving home like always, and it's time to talk basketball. This episode is going to be focused on the New Orleans Pelicans because news broke recently that Zion Williamson is going to be making his debut upcoming. The date that I saw was against the Spurs on the 22nd, which is a week from today. And since that's on the horizon, I figured might as well break down what I've seen from them, their season, and the typical things that I do with these teams. So, first off, they are statistically, standings-wise, the second worst team in the conference, which really isn't saying much because they're 4 games out of the 8th seed, and that could really just be a couple weeks and they're in the playoffs. So, just because they're 14th of 15 in the conference doesn't mean they're dead in the water and they have no shot at the playoffs. And one of the reasons why they have a shot at the playoffs is because of how great Brandon Ingram has been and the glimpses of Lonzo Ball and Jrue Holiday becoming a top-tier backcourt. They are led by Brandon Ingram, scoring I believe a career-high 25.1 points a game. I remember having discussions with people back a few years ago when he was being drafted. So he was drafted in 2016, number 2 overall, behind Ben Simmons, who definitely should have been the number 1 pick. And then you're looking at Jaylen Brown, Dragon Bender, Chris Dunn, who I thought was going to be a stud. That was a miss. Buddy Hield, who I thought was going to be a stud, and he looks like he's going to be a pretty good scoring guard for the next few years. Jakob Poeltl, who has been a very solid role player with the Spurs. Domantas Sabonis went 11, and we know how good he's been with the Pacers. So, a decent draft. But when I watched Brandon Ingram as well as pretty much everybody else, he was billed as Kevin Durant 2.0, this tall, lanky forward who could score from anywhere on the court, could handle the ball, and if he figured things out, could just be an unstoppable scorer with an array of moves. But he dealt with some injuries. He was on some bad teams in LA, and it seemed like he didn't really quite figure things out until this year, when it seems like he's in a more stable environment for him, but he's also being asked to carry the load offensively. So pairing him with Jrue Holiday, who is one of the best all-around point guards in the league, pairing him with a shooter off of him, JJ Redick, Lonzo Ball, who has shot the ball a lot better this season than the previous couple of years. He's been working on that shooting form, and so he looks like he's taking another step. Etuan Moore, who's been a decent shooter, Jackson Hayes, who's just super explosive as a pick and roll man, Derek Favors, who is a stabilizing big man in the middle. All the pieces are there to have a good team. They just need that that one guy, though, to get them over the hump. And if it's not Zion, then I don't know who it would be. Like, Zion coming into this roster, if he looks healthy and explosive, and if we get the Zion from Duke, nobody would have been surprised before the season started, before the injury happened to Zion, if they made the playoffs, because of how they fleeced the Lakers. Well, I mean, they didn't necessarily fleece them, because the Lakers still got Anthony Davis and have looked like one of the top 2 teams in the league. But the fact that they were able to get Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, the picks, all of the stuff that they got, they pretty much rebuilt their roster and strengthened their roster and got depth, got scoring, got defensive talent. They on the fly they did this, and it's pretty amazing to see how quickly a rebuild can be done when a superstar wants out. I mean, you're looking at Oklahoma City in the position they're in, and they practically did the same thing with a lesser player in Paul George. Is they were like, okay, you want this superstar, give us all of these assets, we'll give you the superstar. And then that allowed them to rebuild on the fly, losing Westbrook and Paul George, and now being in the playoff mix. So with New Orleans, they were able to build that roster, draft Zion, draft Jackson Hayes, and they're going to be able to put out a main 5. I don't know if it'll be a starting 5 or a finishing 5, but I wouldn't be surprised if this lineup played a bulk of the minutes together, of Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and insert power or center here if you want to do Derek Favors or Jackson Hayes. And if they really want to get interesting, instead of going with that big man, it'll be 3 guards with Ingram and Zion, and doing Drew Holiday, JJ Redick, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson. And it gives them more variety because of all the things that Zion can do. He's a crafty ball handler for a guy his size, because he, like a lot of the big men we see in today's age, like a Karl Anthony Towns or an Anthony Davis, he was a guard before he hit a growth spurt that made him a power forward center type. He has a decent shot. I don't know if I would even say it's an average shot. It's kind of like Draymond Green, where like you want him to take the shot and he can make it, but it's him shooting a 3 is better than all of the alternatives. Because with the Warriors, it was, we'd rather have Draymond Green shoot a 3 than him coming off of a pick and roll with the ball, creating a play for Steph and Clay coming off of screens. We know what he can do in the paint. He's going to be a big bruising force getting into the paint, with the ability to dunk on practically everybody in the league. And it's just so up in the air with how he's going to come in next week and look. Now, he'll probably be on minutes restrictions. They don't want to run him into the ground, being that he's the face of the franchise and needs to be the face of the franchise for the next 10, 15 years. So you kind of slowly roll him out, and maybe after the first month, 2 months, you've been able to use him 15 minutes a game. You've been able to hold or stand pat around the 8th seed, and then the last month and a half, you say, all right, minutes restrictions off, we're playing you 30 minutes a night, and can they make a run? Seeing as how right now Memphis is holding the 8th seed with Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. and all of the guys that they have. Memphis was, supposed to be a team that was tanking, that was supposed to be the worst team in the West, and they're in the 8th seed. So what's stopping New Orleans from making a playoff push with the roster that they've constructed now? I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the 8th seed. As I talked about with Drew Holiday, him and Lonzo Ball as a backcourt can guard any backcourt in the league. As a Spurs fan, that backcourt scares me to death, seeing that they could put Drew Holiday on DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball on DeJounte Murray, and it's going to come down to, can LaMarcus Aldridge carry the Spurs scoring-wise? Can some of the other guys, like Lonnie Walker or Rudy Gay and Derek White, step up offensively to help shoulder the load if Drew Holiday is able to slow down DeMar DeRozan? There's a little bit of a height difference, but when has that stopped a great defensive players from slowing down other offensive players? The Brandon Ingram Zion pairing is where it's going to really get, I think, is going to be the most interesting subplot of the Pelicans for the Pelicans, because like I said, you're having Brandon Ingram shoulder this load offensively, but he's not supposed to be the face of the franchise. Zion is. So when Zion does come back and they're playing together, how do their styles mesh? They've both had the ball in their hands a majority of their basketball playing life. They're good scorers off the dribble. Are they going to be able to coexist with the other guys on the team and still be able to be efficient? I think that when you're this good at basketball, you can pretty much do anything at any time. So it's mostly a mentality thing. And I know Zion will do whatever it takes to win. But from what I've seen with Brandon Ingram, his time in the Lakers was kind of the way it was because he felt that he felt he deserved the keys to the kingdom. And while I thought he was going to be a great player for him, it's just that's not quite the mindset that I want to see from your best player. It's like when the trade rumors started swirling last season and the Lakers practically just shut down as a franchise. It was those trade rumors that affected Brandon Ingram. I would hope that he'd be selfless enough as this kind of basketball player to, if it's required for him to score 17 a game instead of 25 a game, that's what he's going to do. I mean, this is all, everything I'm saying about Brandon Ingram, like, it's just what I've seen, what I saw. For all I know, Zion's going to come back and he's going to say, all right, Zion, this is your team. I tried to keep us afloat offensively. Now you're back. Here you go. Because he's never been in this situation pretty much. Like, he had 2 seasons with LA. The first season was kind of a lost season. And then they drafted Lonzo, and the Lonzo Ball family drama took over LA. And then LeBron gets there, and LeBron pretty much starts a ticking time bomb trying to get Anthony Davis there. So we haven't really seen him in a normal situation, and it seems like he's in a normal situation now with a running mate in Zion Williamson, who paired with Drew Holiday and Lonzo Ball, like I said, could easily make a playoff push this year. And if I was a betting man, which I am, I still would bet on the veteran-laden teams with the guys who have been there before to make the playoffs, and I don't expect them to be there. But if it came down to game 82, they need to win and another team needs to lose for them to make it. That wouldn't surprise me. I just don't think that they're going to make it, though. And the fact that they might be that close should show you how good this team is going to be for years to come with such a young core now. So it's not about this year, New Orleans, and it might not be about next year, but 3, 4, 5 years tops, I could easily see them in the Western Conference Finals, if not NBA Finals, if everything breaks right. So that does it on the New Orleans Pelicans. I'll be back again discussing another team soon. I don't know when, but that's hopefully sooner rather than later. And I hope you enjoyed listening. As always, subscribe, rate, and review. Tell your friends about me. Tell your friends about the Benchwarmers podcast with me, Andrew, and Alvin. And I'll see you next time.
We are bandits of a different kind.